On this video, we got the 69 Firebird in paint. Right now we're putting the black sealer on. We're going to do the trim and we're going to base coat, clear coat. After that, we're going to assemble the car. We're going to block it down, do the finish blocking, and then hopefully do the sealer and final paint. And the car should be done and looking good. Thanks.
So now that you see we got the car all sealed up and all the trim areas and the hidden areas painted with the blue and all the sealer and clear coat, we'll go ahead and assemble the car. Nothing real crazy here. We just put the doors on. We're going to put the fender and the hood on. Obviously it's real cool. The family's helping out. What you're doing, you're going to put the doors on first and you'll work your way forward. Obviously we can't adjust the quarters, so we adjust the doors off of there. This right now, this whole car is in a 2K primer. It's pretty smooth, all the rough work's done. We're going to just go through, you'll see in a little bit, and then we'll finish the bodywork phase. So this is how I like to do the front end, the inner fenders and fenders versus fighting the fenders over the inner fenders on the car. We like to assemble them as one piece. I think it's a lot easier on these F-body cars, and then you'll see here in a second once we get the fender all bolted in, but I leave it slightly loose so it kind of moves a little bit. There's less of a chance of scratch and paint this way. So you see we kind of walk it over as one unit to the car, and that's the key to how it goes in there. Just kind of ease it on down, and it makes life so much easier that way. And you just tighten the bolts, and now you're going to line this fender off of the door. Now we're going to go on to the driver's side. Same process, just getting the inner fender, which is painted in a satin chassis paint, onto the fender itself. Same thing, just kind of slide it right in place, get the bolts in the front, and then we're going to line it right off the door. If you look, the car's sitting up on these little blocks we made out of 2x6s and 2x4s. Honestly, when you're doing this kind of work, I'm a taller guy. It makes it so much easier when you bring the car up to you. Except for doing the hood part. That part makes it a little bit harder, but you see we're just bolting the hood onto the fenders. You know, same thing, just aligning everything up. Everything should be really close, as this hood has been on and off this car many times. All the major body work has been done, and we marked where our hinge is going to go. We still have to put our cowl on, but right now we're just test fitting the hood off the front of the fenders. And like I said, this is a balancing act. You adjust a little, close it, adjust a little, close it. So now that the hood's on, we're going to put the monkey on the stick on the driver's side fender. The gap was just a little bit too tight and it had to be pulled in. So this tool is perfect for that, just to kind of force the body panels and just help them along and just make them fit that much better. Really just put it on the side and just crank it on. I use this tool a lot when moving body panels, and you see the hood fits a lot better now. Now that we got all our body panels where we want them lined up, our gaps really well, we went ahead and taped the car up. This is currently a running car. The engine bay is all painted. You see all the trims painted. So I don't want any dust from all this sanding on the interior, in the dashboard. If he turns on the heat, it blows out. So we went and taped everything up on the car except the external body. Now we put our dry guide coat on there, and we're going to block down with 320. I'll do a video. I've done one in the past. I might do a more in-depth video on blocking, but there's not that much to it. You just find the right block, the right stiffness for it. You see this block I have right now has a little bit of flex but holds that roof line really well. When I go to the front, I'm going to switch to a softer block. That's why I'm not working that black guide coat off. And this process is real simple. It's a final step before wet sanding and the paint, but all we're doing is just keep sanding till you get the black guide coat off. Once you do that, stop. This was just a 2K. I mean, compared to high build primers and everything, it's a lot thinner, so you don't have to really work this that much, and the car was already straight. We're just fine tuning in this phase. Looking at this car now, you'll see this whole car is in 320. Now I'm starting on the trunk and I'm gonna work my way forward, and what I'm doing, I'm putting the guide coat on again while the car's dry, and we're gonna wet sand this car in 400. You're gonna need to wet sand with 400 or the paper clogs up too well, but this really is going to ensure you get out all the imperfections. And really, when it's wet while you're doing this, you can look down the side of your car and you'll be able to see any imperfections in the car. It really, at this point, should look like glass. This is going to be the final step before you wash it, and then we start painting. Take your time. If there's any imperfections in this car, this is your last chance of getting them out before you're pretty much committed to what you got. So here's my wife in the booth now shooting the sealer. The 400 grit wet sanding's done. We've washed the car, and now we just want to seal it in and get a level playing field for when we do the base coats. This is going to help let us use less base coat and make the color come out without soaking into different hues of paint with the, primer over one thing. It makes a level playing field. We always try to use this for the most part, whether it's a dark sealer or a light sealer. That will also affect the color. So a lot of times we'll do a spray out. Same thing, we did a spray out for the owner of this car, and he picked a darker sealer under it. Here's the first little bit of base coat laying down. You can see the blue. It really, man, this color came out really well. It was very exciting to see when it was all done. But it lays so much better over the sealer. Like I said, at this point, you can start seeing all your hard work on the bodywork come together, and this is where it starts paying off. Here's my wife laying down the clear. We decided to go with 4 coats of clear coat on this. We laid it real heavy on this car. Right now we're outside, and I know the paint booth right now is 108 degrees inside there, North Carolina summer, and we took too long in the paint booth. We started this process early, first thing in the morning, and we just ran into a couple issues here or there. So we were painting way too late in the heat of the afternoon. I was trying to time it where the car bakes at this time, but we knew we would have to cut and buff a lot more, so I asked her to lay on the clear extra heavy, and she did that. So we have extra clear in this car, a show car. We have no problem cutting and buffing. When you have problems, you just make a solution on the spot and then try to fix them as you go along. As I said, right now, here's our cutting and buffing. I did a whole video on cut and buffing. If you go through my links and find out, it was a tedious process. We have about 2.5 to 3 hours on each panel. We worked here pretty much together every night for a while, so it's not bad. I mean, it took plenty of time, but you'll see when this process was done, this makes a difference between an okay car that, it's a cool 69 Firebird, or a car that the paint job really, you look down at it and it's just glass. Really happy. This is the stuff right now. If you paint outside and your clear coat's not perfect, learn how to do this. You will change your paint job around and you'll be amazed on what you can do. Just to give you the highlights on the other video, we're starting with 1500, we're working 2000, 3000, and then 5000. And then what we're doing, we're obviously wet sanding, and what you do with the air, you blow off the air, and it's actually the opposite. It's like a guide coat where you'll see the shiny parts of the car that are the spots you have to go back and rework. Before we get into the final product, this is what the car looked like the day we got it and what we started with. You see the vinyl top was most of the problem. It had quarter panels put on it. We did a bunch of work in the trunk and everything else. Here it is, the 69 Firebird. A few months later, after getting all the little stuff on the car, the bumpers, all the chrome, all the trim, the windows, it's roadworthy now. We took it on first voyage, had no issues with it. The color right here, I didn't mention it earlier, is Liberty Blue. It's a Pontiac color, and to me it's the right color for this car. This car, I can't imagine any other way. It's got a kind of purple tint at times. It looks blue at others. The owner went with the hood tack. We added the Trans Am spoiler on the rear to it. It's a 4-speed car with about aluminum head, small block Chevy, about 430 horsepower roller lifter motor. This is just a cool, fun little hot rod that he's gonna have a good time driving around the street, taking to shows. This is what I was saying, when you look down these cars and they're cut and buffed like they are, they really look like glass. I have no complaints on this car. I think the owner got more than he asked for. Like I said, he's got to do some more work. If you look around it, the bumper still got to be replaced. He wants to tinker on this car himself, so we put the bumpers and stuff that came with the car back on it. Some of the chrome trim is going to be replaced. You'll see some odds and ends. The dashboard has to be redone and some parts on the interior. But for the most part, he's also got to get wheels and tires. Those are obviously another junkyard set that he's undecided exactly what he's going to fix. But man, this car, the paint and body, I'm really happy with it. There's the engine bay running. Everything's clean. Real respectful car, not over the top. It's kind of subtle. The color's sharp. The trunk's really clean. We put a trunk floor in this car. We put a roof on the car. All the window regulators, everything's been re-greased. The tracks, the rollers, they've all been rebuilt. A lot of little emblems we did replace. I already said he's going to go over the bumpers. He's going to finish this interior. We're going to have to steam shrink a little bit of the headliner now that we got it in. He's going to go through the rest of it and kind of replace some of the other odds and ends. Under the hood, for the most part, this car's done. He might add an aluminum radiator down the road. The interior still needs a little bit of work. That console this car was a bracket drag race car, and it had a butchered up shifter on it, and he just wanted to adapt it where the 4-speed fit in it, and it was sealing out the fumes. All in all, great car, really happy. 1969 Pontiac Firebird. Thanks for sticking with us. If you enjoyed this, like, comment, subscribe, and just tell us what you think.